a short walkthrough on the new digital resources of Prime Mathematics New Edition, I want to share with you the readiness, engagement, and mastery phases, which are considered in the instructional design of Prime Mathematics New Edition. So that's why we have to work on prior knowledge, for example, or motivating context or learning environment. These are the three really important aspects that we have to consider in the readiness phase. And after that phase, we have to work through the engagement phase, in which students will be working on mathematics through activity-based teacher directions or teachers' instructions and direct instruction, because the most important thing in this phase is to be clear with, for example, the 4 stages according to the 4 Polya's principles to solve a math problem, and how to work on problem solving using the different heuristics or strategies that we consider in Prime Mathematics. And finally, in the mastery phase, students will be working alone on the math concepts through different sections and new features of Prime Mathematics New Edition. So we can see this reflected on Prime Mathematics in the readiness phase through the Let's Remember section, which is a feature in which teachers can identify the students with difficulties before to start a new chapter or a new topic. So that's why it's really important to work on the Let's Remember section each time that you start a new chapter in the course book, because the students will recall prior knowledge too, and this is really important to understand much better the new concepts. In the engagement phase, students will be working through the Let's Learn and Let's Do sections, in which teachers can model or they can help the students to understand much better the math concepts or how to solve a specific math problem in the classroom. And in the mastery phase, we find more features or more sections in the course book or in general in Prime Mathematics New Edition, because students will be practicing on the math concepts in order to learn these concepts in the math class. So that's why we have included again in the new edition the Let's Practice, Think About It, Mind Stretcher, practice book exercises, and also the new digital resource, the Digital Practice and Assessment. So the Digital Practice and Assessment is a new component, a new digital component that we consider in the engagement and mastery phase. In the engagement phase, because the students will be able to practice every math lesson each time that a teacher has delivered a specific lesson from the book. So the teacher can assign a practice from the Digital Practice and Assessment, and students will be practicing on the math concepts through the CPA approach on this new platform or on this new digital resource. And also we consider the Digital Practice and Assessment in the mastery phase, because teachers can follow up students' learning through the assessments that every teacher can assign from the Digital Practice and Assessment. So students will have an assessment for every chapter in the course book, and this assessment will summarize all the concepts, all the exercises, or all the learning tasks that you are assigning through the practices. So now let's go to a Scholastic Learning Zone. And Scholastic Learning Zone is our platform in which we host all the digital products from Scholastic. So I will log in with a demo account, a teacher's demo account. And on your dashboard, you find two options, the two digital resources of the new edition of Prime. This is the Teaching Hub, and this one is the Digital Practice and Assessment. So let's explore each of them. Let's start with the Teaching Hub, because the Teaching Hub is the new digital resource for math teaching, in which teachers will be able to prepare their classes using some useful tools that we find in this new digital resource. And also, if we want or if we have to deliver the class online, so we will be able to use the interactive whiteboard which is included in this new digital resource. And the second digital resource, which is the digital practice and assessment, is a digital resource for math learning. This is for students. Okay, so let's click on the Teaching Hub. On the Teaching Hub, you find a bookshelf with the course book and the practice book that you are implementing in your grade. For example, let's imagine that we are second grade teachers. So we will find in here the grade 2 course book and grade 2 practice book. So if we click on the course book and we click on prepare, we find 3 drop-down menus in which we need to choose the chapter, unit, and lesson that we want to prepare for the class, for the math class. So imagine that we want to prepare the chapter number 6 about multiplication, unit number 1, adding equal groups, and lesson 1.1, adding the same number. So when you click on prepare, teacher finds here these 4 really useful tools, starting with the scheme of work. If we click on it, we find the scope and sequence of this specific lesson, in which we find the learning objectives, materials, resources, and the new vocabulary which my students will learn through this specific lesson. So you know this resource is really important to us because because we can plan our classes based on this information. So the second resource or the second tool which we can find on the Teaching Hub is the Lesson Notes tool. If we click on it, we find each didactic sequence that corresponds to each specific lesson from the course book. So in here, you find the how to work through the concrete experience, how to work through the pictorial and the abstract representations of this specific unit, adding equal groups. So you will find in here questions, instructions that you have to give in your class in order to implement prime mathematics and Singapore's math in a correct way. The third tool is lesson demo videos. These videos have been created by our experts from Singapore, which these videos show us how to introduce the different topics through the CPA approach. So if I'm new math teacher implementing Singapore's math or prime mathematics program, I can watch these videos. They are about 6 or 7 minutes, no more. And I will learn how to teach this specific unit, this specific topic using the Singapore's math components. For example,
look at these teddy bears. How are they arranged? They're arranged.
So now based on this video, we can prepare our class much better, aligned to Singapore's math, aligned to prime mathematics curriculum. But also we are learning how to teach through the Singapore's math and how to teach taking into account the teaching practices that the Ministry of Education from Singapore consider to teach mathematics in a correct way. So the fourth tool is the Blackline Masters. So maybe you have heard something about Prime Mathematics New Edition, in which I explained that we have included formative assessment in this new edition of Prime. So in order to do formative assessment, you will find some math journals that students will be able to answer some 3 or 4 simple questions in which students will be able to identify their weaknesses, their strengths according to each topic in the math class. So the most difficult part when we're doing formative assessment is how to provide proper feedback for them. But this is not a difficulty for those teachers who are implementing Prime Mathematics New Edition, because they can find the math journal rubrics, which have been created by our experts from Singapore again. So teachers can use this rubric to provide proper feedback for students according to their answers in the math journals. And also we find in this Black Line Masters tool, the cutouts or the teachers' resources that we can copy, run copies, and then we can hand out to students in order to work through a concrete experience or through the pictorial representation. So we think that these are really useful tools to prepare our classes if it is a face-to-face class or online class. But if it is an online class, we have the possibility to use the interactive whiteboard included in this digital resource. So clicking on Teach This Lesson, we find in here an interactive whiteboard that provides, for example, highlighters, markers, the possibility to enclose a document or a video which complements this specific lesson. So we know that every teacher in general or every elementary teacher is really creative. So imagine that we have created a video in which I explain this topic to students. And I want to add this resource, I want to add this video to this specific page from the book. So I can click on the section that I want to enclose this video or this document, and you can enclose your document or your video or your picture in order to complement this specific lesson. So you will find everything in here if you are delivering your online class. So you are not jumping or skipping from one window to the other window or from one website to the other website, because you will find everything here necessary to your math class. And also through the Note tool, for example, we can type in here the link of a website. If we have found an interactive activity on another website and we want to share this website or this interactive activity with the students, we can type in here that link of that website, and you will be getting access from this page specifically directly to that page meanwhile you are delivering your class. So the idea is that you can explore all these tools, okay? Because I think, or I know that you have already your accounts, your digital resources on Scholastic Learning Zone. So the idea is to you explore all of them. They are really amazing tools to deliver our online classes. So imagine that we have prepared already our class, we have taught our class already. Now the third option, Assess, appears on this teaching hub, because this is the link between this first digital resource, teaching hub, to the other second digital resource, the digital practice and assessment. When you click on Assess, you will have access to the digital practice and assessment directly from the teaching hub, or you can access to the digital practice and assessment from the main dashboard, from the home or from the home tab on the dashboard of the Scholastic Learning Zone. So if we click on the digital practice and assessment, it goes to the second digital resource. In here, we find 4 tabs or 4 tools which are really useful for teachers. Firstly, we find the home tab. If we click on home tab, we find on top a drop-down menu with all the courses or grades that you have assigned. Imagine that I want to see the progress of my students from the demo class 2021. On the option practice, if we click on the option practice and we select the practice that we have assigned, for example, about using par whole bar models, I know that only one student has done this practice, Oscar Moreno. But Oscar got only 88% of correct answers in this practice. So if we want to check the progress or Oscar's progress, we can click on that progress bar and we find the correct and incorrect answers, okay? According to Oscar's answers in this practice. So imagine that in this case, we have red. So that means that Oscar was wrong on this in this specific question. So I know that Oscar maybe has difficulties to represent problems or situations through a bar model, but specifically the how Oscar is going from the abstract representation to the pictorial representation, which in which we consider the bar model. So now I know where I have to reinforce Oscar in this specific topic about problem solving. Oscar has difficulties in problem solving, specifically how he's passing from the abstract representation from the problem or the situation, and how he's translating this information on a VAR model. So I can assign more practice from the digital practice and assessment or from the practice book, which is another component considered in the mastery phase of the instructional design of Singapore's math. Okay, so at the second tab, which is practices, when we click on practices tab, we will find a drop-down menu with all grades. Imagine that we are math teachers in first and second grade. So I will find only the practices that correspond to grade number 1 and grade number 2. So imagine that we are teaching now grade number 1, first grade. So I will find all practices here, the list of practices that correspond to each lesson in the course book. So as I told you, it means students can practice every math class every day using the platform. So in these practices, students will find, or teachers will find eight questions in total. So 8 questions that students will be answering through the CPA approach. For example, let's explore this first practice about counting. You always find 2 options. In the first option, if we click on the first option, we have the possibility to check all the exercises or all the learning exercises that you are assigning through this specific practice. We can see the correct answer in yellow color, but the most amazing things of this platform is that students will be able to drag and drop virtual objects, similar activities that commonly they do in the classroom when they are manipulating physical objects to work on math concepts through the concrete experience. So after that you have reviewed all of this, you have 2 options. The first option, if you click on the printer, you have the possibility to download these exercises in PDF form. So it works, for example, when you know that some students or a student has connection issues, so you can download these exercises from the DPA. Then you can run some copies and you can hand out these exercises to students. So they will be able to work on the same exercises that those students who are working on the platform. Or, for example, if you want to work on these specific exercises in the classroom, and maybe you don't have internet connection at that time. And the second option is to assign this practice. So teacher finds here the drop-down menu with all the courses, all grades which they have assigned or which this teacher has assigned. And I will choose in here, for example, demo class 2021. So I will find the whole list of this class. I can assign to everybody this practice, or I can assign this practice to some students specifically. Maybe because I want to only some students reinforce in this topic. So imagine that in here, I will click on the checkbox from Oscar. So I will assign to these people this specific practice. So we need to click on assign. So now Oscar and the rest of people with the check have assigned already this practice. In the same way, we find at the third tab, assessments tab, each assessment or an assessment, sorry, for each chapter from the course book. With the same possibilities, we can explore the different learning exercises. If we click on the title of each assessment, let's explore, for example, the chapter number 3, assessment about addition in first grade. When you click on the title of that assessment, you find in here the exercises that you will be assigning to students, all right? And we can see clearly the different kind of exercises which students will be doing through this evaluation or through this assessment. And on the same way, we have the two possibilities to click to print or to download these exercises in a PDF form, or we can assign directly clicking on the second option. You find the drop-down menu again. Imagine that we will assign this demo class 2021. I will assign this specific assessment only Oscar, and I click on assign. So now Oscar has two assignments, one practice and one assessment that that Oscar needs to work on. So now let me log out from the teacher's account. I will go to the student's account because I wanna share with you how students can see the assignments. So let me log out again from here, sorry. And now I will log in with a student's account. My username, O Moreno, my password, and when on the student's account, on the student's dashboard, I find the digital practice and assessment option and a student hub. I will talk about the student hub later, okay? So I will click on the digital practice and assessment. So I know that my teacher has assigned to me a practice and assessment that I have to complete. So at Home tab in the student's account, I find the most recent results of the previous practices and previous assessments that I have taken. So for example, the last assessment, the last practice that I did is practice about power whole bar models, in which I got 88%. If I click on assessment option, I will find the assessments that I have taken, and the last assessment I got 100% of questions answered correctly. And on this part, on this section, I find the assignments that I have to complete right now. I have an assessment about addition, I have an assessment about position and movement, and I have a practice about counting. So you can start each practice, each assessment, clicking on this button or this option directly, or you can go to each practice or each assessment, clicking at the practices tab, in which I have a new practice to complete, or clicking at the assessments tab. I have two assessments that I need to take right now. So let's go to the practices tab and let's click on start. So in here, as a student, I find the same learning exercises which my teacher has assigned to me previously. Look, for example, this first exercise is a relationship between a pictorial representation and the abstract representation of the amount or the number 3. But imagine that I have difficulties in this topic. I don't know how to answer this question. So always in every practice, I find this hint feature. When I click on the hint feature, always I find in here some information based on the CPA approach, which can help me to understand much better this exercise in order to answer it correctly. So I can check this information. I know already how to answer this question. So I will choose the correct option here, the number 3. So then I click on next. So this is a similar exercise to the previous one in which I have to choose the number 10. So let's choose the correct answer here, 10. And now we have in here a relationship or an exercise about the relationship between the generic pictorial representation and the abstract representation. So imagine that I have difficulties counting the amount of objects or the amount of bananas in this exercise specifically. I know there are 6 bananas in all, but I will choose 4 as correct option, okay? Because I want to show you something at the reports tab and the teacher and how teachers can find these difficulties using the platform. So then I will click on next. I need to count the amount of squirrels here. There are 9 in all, but I will choose only 5. Remember, I have difficulties in this specific topic, or this passing from the concrete representation to the abstract. Sorry, from the generic pictorial representation to the abstract representation. So now in here, I have the number 4, and I have to choose the pictorial representation of this number, which is this one, all right? So let's choose the correct answer here. Let's go to the next one. Now I have to choose this one. I will go to the next exercise. I need to choose 8 peers in all right? But imagine that I have difficulties again in this topic. I will choose this one, like correct answer. And then, as I told you, students will be able to manipulate virtual objects through the digital practice and assessment, because they need to move, drag and drop, sorry, into this box, 5 parrots in all. So if they are working on this exercise using a tablet or a cell phone, the activity will be more similar, okay, to the real activity when they are manipulating the physical objects in the classroom. So we need to move 5 parrots, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we click on finish. So when you click on yes, we are really sure to submit this attempt in this practice. Immediately I will get a progress bar with the percentage of answers correct. So in this case, I got 63% of questions answered correctly. If I'm a student and I click on the progress bar, I only find the number of attempts. This is the 31st attempt on this practice about counting, in which I got 63%. I don't receive more information from the platform because this information will be available in the teacher's account. Okay, so now let me go to the teacher's account. I will log in again to using the teacher's account. And now the Oscar's teacher knows already that Oscar has done this practice about counting. So when you click as a teacher on the digital practice and assessment and clicking at the reports tab, you find the drop-down menu again with your classes, and we will choose demo class 2021. Oscar is in demo class 2021. And when you choose practice option, you find 2 different kinds of reports. The first report is an individual report. So let's go, let's choose counting practice. I have the list of the students which did already this practice. For example, let's see Oscar. Oscar got 63%. Oh my God, Oscar has difficulty, in this specific topic. So when you click on the progress bar, you find the correct and incorrect answers, okay, in the Oscar's attempt. So I know that Oscar has difficulties in this topic about counting, but specifically, Oscar doesn't know how to go from the the generic pictorial representation to the abstract representation. So I know where I have to reinforce Oscar. I can assign more practice from the digital practice and assessment, or I can assign more practice from the practice book to this specific student, to Oscar actually. Okay, so now if we go again to the reports tab, we can find the second report, which is general. This is a general report. And the platform provides in red color those people who got 50% or below in each specific practice or each specific assessment. And the platform provides in green color those people who got 80% or above. For example, we find in here the whole list of my demo class 2021, in which most of my students got green color, 80% or above. So it means that this math component about numbers and the number system, it is a strength in this class, okay? But imagine that instead green color, we have red. People got 50% or below. So that means it is a weakness for these students specifically. So I know already how to reinforce in which specific topic I have to reinforce this class or these students in general. Okay. So let me go again to my presentation. I have in here some FAQ about the digital practice and assessment and the teaching hub. So commonly when I'm presenting these digital resources, teachers ask these questions. First, how many practices and assessments are there on the digital practice and assessment? So there is a practice for each lesson and an assessment for each chapter, as I told you already. Meanwhile, I was giving the walkthrough. A second question is how many exercises are there in each practice and assessment? There are 8 exercises in each practice and 10 exercises in average in each assessment. This amount or this number of questions in each assessment depends on each topic and its math representations. So that's why you will find more questions in the assessments related to bar model, for example, instead to the assessments related to, I don't know, for example, multiplication with fractions. Multiplication with fractions, probably you will find about or around 10 or 11 questions, but an assessment related to bar model or those topics which contain more pictorial representation, you will find about 15 or 20 questions. So a third question is, can teachers create or delete exercises from the DPA, the Digital Practice and Assessment? No, they can't. They can check the practices and assessments before to assign them only, as we saw already in the walkthrough. How long does a student take to do the practices and assessment exercises? This is 1 hour. This is a default time that our experts from Singapore has assigned in this feature of the DPA. However, this will be we will be modifying this feature in the future. Okay, the idea is that every teacher will be able to assign the specific time that the teacher needs to their students, to his or her students. Will students find the exercises in different order? No, the exercises appear in the same order for every student. Can teachers assign any practice several times? Yes, they can. Actually, SLC provides an individual and general reports each time that a teacher has assigned any practice or assessment. So as we saw on the Oscar's example, Oscar tried this 31st, I think, yes, 31st attempt in the practice about counting. So that means that Oscar has done previously 30 attempts on this specific practice. So you can assign the amount of times that you want each practice and each assessment from the DPA. And finally, can teachers embed digital practice and assessment or the teaching hub to Google Classroom? No, they can't. This option will be available soon. But meanwhile, you can insert SLC like a link for now on Google Classroom, of course. Okay?